Good evening. Nepal is on the edge. The wife of a former Prime Minister of Nepal. She was charred to death when protesters set their home on fire. And that's not the only home of a top political leader that's been set on fire. We have an entire list. So, Sheetal Nivas, the president's house in Nepal, set on fire. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli, he's stepped down. His house has been set on fire. The parliament building has been set on fire. Sher Bahadur Deuba, former Prime Minister, and his wife Arzu Rana Deuba, they were roughed up. They were assaulted by the mob. Pushpa Kamal Dahal Prachand, the mob tried to set their house on fire. Ramchandra Padel, President of Nepal, home, the presidential palace attacked. Ramesh Lehek, Home Minister Nepal, home attacked. Bishnu Prasad Paudel, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, chased, beaten up and stripped by protesters in Nepal. And this list goes on and on. The situation is very tense. Airports are being set on fire. Government buildings are being set on fire. Even though Prime Minister Khadga Prasad Sharma Oli, K.P. Sharma Oli, he stepped down. The entire cabinet has resigned. The president has accepted that resignation. The mob's still not satisfied. They say change all these political leaders who use Nepal's power as a revolving chair. The same 4 or 5 faces will keep returning as the Prime Minister, and the power never comes to the people. They now want genuine change or parivartan. And over the course of the next half hour, we get you all details, but take a look at the ground realities right now. Parliament to pavement, Nepal's power play. K.P. Sharma Oli, government ousted, Gen Z triumphs. After Colombo and Dhaka, now Kathmandu. Nepal army appeals for peace. Nepal's next chapter, a coup, calm or civilian rule. That's our top focus on India First. The army is out on the streets, but the army is only appealing to the protesters to go back home and restore law, order and calm. But there have been instances, and especially when Sheetal Nivas, the presidential building, the presidential house, when that was targeted, the mob snatched their weapons and they were brandishing those self-loading rifles and AK series assault rifles. There have been instances where the mob or the protesters are now distancing themselves from banks being targeted, government offices being targeted, and in some instances, loot at government offices and the presidential building. We'll get you all those details. Also coming up, C.P. Radhakrishnan is the new Vice President of India. He's got 452 first preference votes as against 300 for the opposition India bloc candidate Sudarshan Reddy, Justice Sudarshan Reddy. Of course, the opposition says that's moral victory for them. We'll get you more on that story. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. Chaos on the streets of Nepal. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli resigns. Protesters take out a victory march across Kathmandu. The parliament building, President House set on fire. Several ministers have been targeted. NDA picks C.P. Radhakrishnan is the new Vice President of India. C.P. Radhakrishnan bagged 452 votes, while India bloc candidate Justice Sudarshan Reddy got 300 votes, 15 less than what the opposition expected. Prime Minister Narendra Modi carries out an aerial survey of flood-affected regions of Himachal Pradesh and Punjab. The Prime Minister reviews relief efforts in both the states, meets victims of the flood. An avalanche hits an army camp at the Siachen Glacier. 3 soldiers sadly lose their lives. Their bodies have now been recovered. Big escalation. Israel targets Hamas leadership in Doha, Qatar. Reports say senior Hamas leaders have been targeted in this attack. Confirmation awaited on the success. So in Nepal, there's chaos on the streets, not just of Kathmandu, but across the 77 districts of Nepal. Whether it's the hill region or the plains, there are people who are out on the streets, not in hundreds, but in thousands. Protesters stormed. They singled out homes and offices of powerful ministers, including Prime Minister Khadga Prasad Sharma Oli, K.P. Sharma Oli. They set his personal house on fire. Homes of several ministers have been set on fire. In one instance, of former Prime Minister Khanal, his wife, she was at home when they set the house on fire. Sadly, she was killed. She was burnt to death in this mob attack at their house. Dramatic escalation. The Prime Minister's office at Singh Darbar was targeted. The seat of government has turned into a flashpoint. That's the ground reality right now. Look at those pictures that you see. The Parliament building has been set on fire. The presidential house has been set on fire. I quickly want to cut across to my colleague Pankaj Das, who joins us live from Kathmandu with the latest. Pankaj, क्या अब स्थिति धीरे धीरे नियंत्रण में आ रही है कि अभी भी स्थिति नियंत्रण में नहीं है काठमांडू में?
नहीं, जैसे जैसे समय बीतता रहा, जैसे दिन भर यहाँ पे हिंसा की घटना हुई है, उस तरह से शाम को अभी कहीं से इस तरह की कोई खबर नहीं आ रही है। हाँ, ये जरूर है कि शाम को एक ही बार में अचानक से जितने बड़े मॉल थे काठमांडू के, उनमें तोड़फोड़ हुई है, उनमें लूटपाट की गई है। इसी तरह काठमांडू के बाहर भी सभी बड़े जो शॉपिंग मॉल है, उनमें तोड़फोड़ और लूटपाट हुई है। जेलों में से कैदी सारे भाग गए हैं। पोखरा की जेल से 900 कैदी भाग गए हैं। काठमांडू के नखू जेल से भी सारे कैदी भाग गए हैं। यानी कि वहाँ पुलिस की सुरक्षा ही नहीं है। भागने के वो आराम से जेल से निकल के अपने अपने घरों की तरफ या उनको जहां जाना था वहां चले गए हैं। प्रधान न्यायाधीश के घर पे जो है प्रदर्शनकारियों ने आग लगा दी है, जो कि प्रधानमंत्री के सरकारी आवास के बिल्कुल बगल में था। तो सिचुएशन धीरे धीरे जो है दिन भर में काफी खराब रही। लेकिन
अच्छा, ये जो खबर आई, झालानाथ खनाल, पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री, फॉर्मर प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ नेपाल, उनकी पत्नी राज्यलक्ष्मी, शी वाज अ प्रोफेसर, अ मास्टर्स डिग्री शी हैज, वाज एसोसिएटेड विद द कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी। झालानाथ खनाल की जो पत्नी है राज्यलक्ष्मी, उनकी मौत आखिर कैसे हो गई?
देखिए, जब प्रदर्शनकारी झलनाथ खनाल के घर पे जिस तरह से सारे नेताओं के घर पे जा रहे थे, उस तरह से उन्होंने झलनाथ खनाल के भी घर पे आक्रमण किया, वहां पे आगजनी कर दी। और जिस समय आगजनी की गई उस समय वो झलनाथ खनाल की जो पत्नी है वो वही घर के भीतर थी। उन्हें बाहर निकलने का भी मौका नहीं मिला और जलकर बुरी तरह झुलस गई वो। लेकिन जब तक अस्पताल पहुंचाया गया तब तक उनकी मौत हो चुकी थी। बहुत ही दर्दनाक मौत उनकी हुई। अगर उन्हें बाहर निकलने का मौका दिया गया होता तो शायद वो बच जाती। लेकिन प्रदर्शनकारियों को या तो अंदाजा नहीं होगा कि घर के भीतर कोई है, जो इतनी बड़ी संख्या में भीड़ थी वहां पर कि किसी को रोक पाना या किसी के लिए कुछ भी कह पाना बहुत ही मुश्किल था। तो उनके घर को जब आग लगा दी गई, उसी में आग में वो जलकर उनकी मौत हो गई है।
Pankaj, रहिए मेरे साथ, and I want our viewers to just hear this out. I want you to see some of these images, and I urge viewer discretion. Some of the images we are showing you, they may distress you. That's why we urge viewer discretion. But you should know, in the name of a revolution, what's happening on ground in Nepal. A former Prime Minister's wife, she was unfortunately charred and she died when protesters set Jhalanath Khanal's house on fire. Former Prime Minister of Nepal. But take a look at this entire list on India Today. K.P. Sharma Oli, Prime Minister of Nepal till some time back, his house in Balkot, Bhaktapur set on fire. Sher Bahadur Deuba is former Prime Minister of Nepal and President of the Congress Party. He's a part of the ruling alliance. His wife Arzu Rana Deuba is the Foreign Minister of Nepal. Their house was attacked. They were targeted. They were singled out. They were beaten up. A school set run by the family, that school was also set on fire. Pushpa Kamal Dahal, Prachand, former Prime Minister of Nepal, of the Communist Party of Nepal, chairman of the Maoist Center, Stones were hurled at him. His house has partially been set on fire in Lalitpur, according to reports that are coming in. Ramchandra Paudel, he's the president of Nepal. President of Nepal, home attack. The presidential house has been attacked and set on fire. Ramesh Lehek was the home minister of Nepal. He was held responsible for the 22 deaths of the protesters. His house has been set on fire. Bishnu Prasad Paudel, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, he was chased, stripped and beaten on the streets of Nepal. And this list goes on and on. Prithvi Gurung, Minister for IT and Communication, and remember, he's been in the line of fire, home set on fire. Jhalanath Khanal, former Prime Minister of Nepal, senior leader of the Communist Party. Wife Rajya Lakshmi, former lecturer in MSc, mob set the house on fire. The list goes on. Kantipur, it's a very major publication, newspaper in Nepal, office set on fire. Nepali Congress office set on fire. Communist Party office set on fire. I want to quickly bring in India Today's Rohit Singh, who joins us for more on this big story. Rohit, this just goes on and on and on. The kind of targeted attacks on the political leadership in Nepal, cutting across political lines. Rohit, can you hear me?
Yes, Gaurav, massive violence has... Yes, Gaurav, could you just repeat your question?
Rohit, where you are right now, is the situation under control? Because there are reports of massive violence, not just restricted to Kathmandu, but across the 77 districts in the plains. What's the situation?
Well, yes, Gaurav, you are right. It's not just the national capital, Kathmandu, which is really burning, but several parts of Nepal, which is on fire at this point of time. In the last 2 days, we have seen massive violence being witnessed. And right now, I am in Birganj, which is located on the Indo-Nepal border. And this town is right now under curfew. And this is indefinite curfew because remember, after what happened in Kathmandu yesterday afternoon, the fire flared up, it fanned across Nepal, and in the evening, by evening, it spread to Birganj also, and massive violence was reported here, following which there was a 12-hour curfew which was imposed from 9 p.m. yesterday. And in the morning today also, when it was expected that the situation would improve a bit, but however, we saw throughout the day huge violence being reported, following which the administration in the evening today has decided to impose indefinite curfew in Birganj and all throughout the day. Gaurav, let me tell you, this city was burning. Several government offices were set on fire. The municipality office was set on fire. The vehicles were set on fire. The telecom offices were set on fire. Stones were pelted at the police personnel, and several vehicles were also tossed. So the situation on the ground remained completely tense, and that is why the administration has been compelled to impose and extend the curfew in this area for indefinite period. Back to you.
Stay with me on this broadcast. India Today has the biggest team of reporters on ground zero to get you a 360-degree perspective of what's happening. But for perspective, I'm also joined now from Nepal. Major General Binod Basniat is a strategic affairs expert, a former veteran of the Nepal Army. He joins us on the show. Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan is former member of the National Security Advisory Board, was a defense attaché in China, joins us on the broadcast. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar with me on this. But General Basniat, what's the current situation in your view, sir? Is the army in a position to contain the widespread reports of violence and arson that we hear in Nepal?
Gaurav, thank you so much for inviting me. Firstly, let me tell you that the current peaceful protest by the Gen Z is the largest protest in Nepal's political agitation history, whether it is the Kotpara of 1846 or different agitations. So with this comes the present ground reality. So the present ground reality has three folds. One is the law and order forces credibility is diminishing. Second, the political parties have stopped functioning temporarily, particularly the Nepali Congress, the UML, and the Maoist. So this is questioning the constitutional arrangements. And the third is the protest is getting wider. It's not just the Gen Z's population, but it is gone into the homes, and it is not due to, and it is basically due to the handling by force of the government. So right now there is a constitutional vacuum. When the prime minister has resigned, there is no government. The house has not yet been dissolved, and the president also seems to be in a bad shape in the sense that he is I mean, some say he's in the mood of resigning, some say he has to be accountable, because the only two bodies that will be left to handle this interim arrangements will be the president's office and the Nepalese army. And I think the Nepalese army's popularity and the trust amongst the people will give direction uh, for I mean, immediate and short-term stability. And I'm not aware exactly what the chief of the army speech of the army chief General Sigdel spoke
Yes.
in the media with the people, but I think these are all professionals who can handle things well to address two issues. One is
Yes.
the political issue, that is the amendments in the constitution. The other is the government's governance issue, is on the charges of the commission, a commission to be formed for corruption charges. So if these
Yes.
two things are handled, I think the interim arrangements with the president's directions and Nepal Army's role and in meeting the security arrangements will let the peace protesters
Okay. Go back
subside.
to their homes. Sir, stay with me for a moment. I have Abdul Khan, who's a former minister in the government of Nepal, joining me on this broadcast. Abdul Khan साहब, इस समय जो स्थिति है नेपाल में, क्या कोई गवर्नेंस, क्या कोई सरकार है? आर्मी कंट्रोल करेगी, प्रेसिडेंट कंट्रोल करेंगे, या ये हिंसा चलती ही रहेगी? शांति कैसे लौटेगी?
देखिए, अभी जो नेपाल का अवस्था है, तो यहाँ पे जितने भी सरकारी ऑफ़िस सब थे, कार्यालय सब थे, वो लगभग सभी मलबे में तब्दील हो गए हैं, सभी में आगजनी हुआ है, तोड़-फोड़ हुआ है, युवा सब आक्रोशित है। और इस समय में ख़ास करके यहाँ पे जो युवा सब की पार्टी मानी जाती है और जिसको युवा सब चाहता है, जैसे बालेन शाह हो गए, काठमांडू के मेयर हैं वो, रवि लामिछाने हो गए, राष्ट्रीय स्वतंत्र पार्टी के वो सभापति हैं, डॉक्टर सीके राउत हो गए, जो अभी मेरी पार्टी के प्रेसिडेंट हैं। इन
जी।
लोग का अभी मीटिंग चल रहा है। और
ठीक।
ये मीटिंग से अभी लगभग 2-3 घंटा के बाद कोई न कोई यहाँ पे निर्णय लिया जाएगा, कोई डिसीजन लिया जाएगा कि जो है अब हम सब आगे किस कदम को बढ़ाते हुए जाएँ ताकि ये जितनी समस्याएँ हैं ये रुकें। और अभी तक का युवा सबका जो आक्रोश है इसके लिए शांति की अपील की गई है, ये लोगों द्वारा, हम सभी द्वारा शांति की अपील की गई है। और आज जो है यहाँ के प्रधानमंत्री से लेकर के मंत्री लोग और राष्ट्रपति जी भी इस्तीफ़ा दे चुके हैं। इस समय
जी।
में आज अभी नेपाल की जो सेना प्रमुख है उनका संबोधन भी होगा, तो कल से ख़ास करके सेना के हाथ में देश होगा। लेकिन अब आगे का सिचुएशन कैसा हो, किस तरीके का हो, ये युवा सबको
जनरल
मिला करके
सिगदेल विल
जो
बी
है
स्पीकिंग शॉर्टली। जी, खान साहब रहिए मेरे साथ। जनरल नरसिम्हन एंड एम्बेसडर सज्जनहार, जनरल नरसिम्हन टू यू फर्स्ट. General Sigdel, the Nepal Army chief, will be addressing the nation shortly in Nepal. You think the army will be able to contain the situation, and the manner in which systematically political leaders, former prime ministers, current ministers, former ministers, they've been targeted? Is this random or planned targeting of the existing political leadership in Nepal, sir?
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Unlike the protest that we saw in Bangladesh, here it seems to be instantaneous. What happened here in Nepal, and so there is no leadership, there is no organizational structure in this protest. So therefore, I think the protests have come instantaneously on their own. That is one thing I could get to see. The second problem that you will find is army is still contemplating on getting into the sea. Though, of course, Army Chief is said to have asked the Prime Minister to resign before Army can take control of the situation. This Army will definitely be able to control. That is the first point I want to convey, and I see my friend General Binod Basniat there. Army will definitely be able to control. It's a professional army, very well trained army, and so I don't think there will be a problem there. The only problem is there is no constitutional structure at this point in time. There is no president, there is no prime minister, there is no governance actually at this point in time. That has to be brought back to some kind of a shape. And there is a name of Mr. Balinder Shah is coming up for, that people are wanting to be the interim prime minister. All those things will take shape. First, I think they need to get the situation under control. I think once the army moves in, I think that will happen. Maybe within a day or two, you will find a semblance of peace coming back.
Okay. Ambassador Sajanhar, is there also your appreciation that it's a spontaneous uprising against massive corruption in the K.P. Sharma Oli government? But, it's the same leadership, whether it's the Communist Party or the Nepali Congress Party or others. It's a revolving door policy. Different parties, same faces. They're just playing a game. They just keep coming into power each time. This time people said there has to be someone new. Your appreciation also of Balendra Shah or Balen Shah, the rapper turned political leader of the mayor of Kathmandu, who's likely to be the interim prime minister if the street is to be believed.
No, absolutely. You're very right, Gaurav. I think a couple of things. I also feel that it is an organic protest, and that is why, it has come up so suddenly. That trigger or proverbially the last straw on the camel's back was this social media app ban, etc., etc. But the real issue was corruption, was malgovernance, was inflation, was unemployment, etc., and everything that goes with it. The second point is that all political parties, those who have been in government, they have lost credibility, completely lost credibility. And that is why you would have seen that it is not only K.P. Sharma Oli. He's been prime minister 5 times. Sher Bahadur Deba 5 times. Prachand 4 times. Madhav Nepal also equal number of times. So, what people feel is, as you put it, a revolving door or it's a musical chair. Someone is coming, someone is going, someone is getting out, someone is coming in. And as far as the opposition is concerned, on some trumped up charges or the other, they are put behind bars or they are thrown out of favor. So for all practical purposes, there is no opposition as far as the country is concerned. The second point I want to make is that all institutions in the country appear to have been totally discredited. Because, they are moving against the presidency, they are moving against the Supreme Court, they are moving against even the police, the law enforcement agencies. So, democracy, which came to the country 17 years ago, has really not been able to develop roots, has not been able to strengthen institutions. That is not all that surprising. The last point I want to make is the first need of the hour is to get peace, security, and stability. That is not getting. The only institution that seems to be in a place competent, capable, and have the trust and credibility of the people is the army. And they have the instruments of power and authority to be able to impose that. So they can enter into a dialogue.
Professional army.
Absolutely. So the last point.
Go on, sir.
Yeah, last point. The title of your program here was coup, calm, or civilian rule. And you had put a question mark. I will remove the question mark. I'll say first it will be army control. That will bring calm, and that will lead to civilian rule. That is the.
And let me take that to General Basniat. General Basniat, the army does not want to take control. From whatever I was able to gather from my conversations, General, the army is being asked to come, maintain law and order, but they wanted the Prime Minister to step down first so that the army does not get discredited to be associated with him. But they want some kind of a civilian leadership in place before they come. Do I understand that correctly, General Basniat?
I think when you're talking about the army, the army was deployed yesterday according to the Local Administrative Act. which does not deploy the army in full. So it has to be done, the constitutional arrangements, it has to be done through the National Security Council chaired by the Prime Minister, and which did not happen, one. Second is, I think looking at the prospects now, when the president is the deciding factor, he should take several steps. One is he must dissolve the parliament. One.
Yes.
Second, he must form an interim government with non-political personalities, expertise on different fields who can head the commissions and lead the government so that the government, so that the political direction and are given by the expertise rather than with the political biases. So this is what has to happen. So the president has to be very careful politically. But I would like to draw two lines. One is, I think the president must be, the constitutional body must be very involved in getting the politics in direction with the amendments in the constitutions that the people so desire and preserving the Nepal's identity. At the same time, I think the army must assist in formalizing the security order and trying to form a security of a body that really looks into a long term. So this is a very bad incident, but I tell you, Gaurav, this is not a surprise. This would have come one or the other day. It is ignorance of the political elites not to identify the challenges that the government, that the people were facing and the nation was facing. So this ignorance has led to a loss of lives, lots of tragedies, and so the president and everything lies on the president's office and the chief of the army.
So all eyes on Ramchandra Paudel
in the coming days.
Yes, all eyes on the president, Ramchandra Paudel. He, of course, is not in the presidential house because the presidential house was set on fire by the mob. From what sources say, he was whisked away to safeties at a military garrison, but will stay back. Unlike some other political leaders who want to leave the country, apparently he wants to stay back. But Nepal is in flames. Gentlemen, stay with me. From the Parliament House to the Prime Minister's house to homes of several top political leaders to the presidential house, Sheetal Nivas, they were set on fire. So such was the anger of the youth because they'd been crying for a very long time, not just the social media. They were crying for jobs. They wanted jobs. They were crying for a better life. They were crying against this rampant corruption. And it's not just one instance of corruption in buying aircraft for the Nepal Airlines, multiple instances. K.P. Sharma Oli finally put in his papers this afternoon. Nepal army has been asked to step in, but as ministers actually fled in helicopters to the Tribhuvan International Airport, there's curfew not just in Kathmandu but across the 77 districts. The nation is in free fall. The big question, who will take charge? Nepal in free fall, Kathmandu burning, from the parliament to the Supreme Court, from the president's office at Sheetal Nivas to political party offices and private homes of political leaders. Protesters have taught symbols of power. Even former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and Baburam Bhattarai were not spared. The Gen Z uprising has toppled the K.P. Sharma Oli government in Nepal. The trigger, rampant corruption and a controversial social media ban. Though the Oli government rolled back its ban, Gen Z had already taken charge of the streets, demanding accountability and action against corruption.
They are the murderers of our nation. They killed our 14 years children on gunshot in head, and this is very brutal.
पुलिस आके उद्देश्य आया कि त्यो बन्दुक के नाल से यहाँ मार दिया बहुत भ्रष्टाचार है हमारा युवा से रोजगार नहीं मिल रहा है
The Nepal army has now been forced into the spotlight. K.P. Sharma Oli resigned as Nepal's Prime Minister after Army Chief General Ashok Raj reportedly told him to step down in national interest. Sources say Oli pleaded with the army for help to flee Nepal. Dubai, now his likely destination. Ministers are being heli-lifted from their homes and army choppers as curfew has been clamped across Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur.
Since morning we have seen after the airport got shut down, the choppers are being used, army choppers are being used to take the political class out of the country, and the protesters from the Gen Z community are wanting to have complete dissolving of the parliament.
Protesters call Oli's exit people's victory. The third violent power shift in India's neighborhood after Mahind Rajapakse in Sri Lanka in 2022 and Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh in 2024. With the political class discredited, all eyes now are on the Nepal army. The military leadership insists it stands with the people of Nepal, issuing a rare joint appeal with the police and civil administration to restore calm as quickly as possible. The youth, though, are wary and have appealed to Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah to take over as the interim Prime Minister of Nepal.
Prime Minister has resigned, but that is not enough. The youth over here, they won't be satisfied just by the resignation of Prime Minister. We need Prime Minister to be in front of the people and be sorry for all the killings that he has done yesterday.
अब हम ये पार्टी का नेता नहीं मानते हैं, हमारा जिंदगी से प्रधानमंत्री हमें चाहिए और राष्ट्रपति हमारा उसी से चाहिए और जौन मंत्री हमारा जिंदगी भाई लोग हमारा देश निर्माण करेगा, हमारा देश फिर ही उठेगा.
Tonight, the Oli era is over. What comes next to Nepal? An interim civilian government or an army-backed dispensation remains the big question. With Pankaj Das, Rohit Singh and Amit Bharadwaj in Nepal. Bureau Report, India Today. Ambassador Sajjanhar, you heard the voice on the street. Gen Z want one, their leadership, a clean break from the leadership that hasn't been able to deliver on their aspirations. Two, they want accountability. But looking at past trends, is accountability even possible or feasible in the current scenario?
Yeah, Gaurav, what we've been talking about, that these are spontaneous, these are organic protests and demonstrations that have come about. So, they don't have a unified leadership. There is no unified party or body or group that has sort of, brought this. Of course, there is this organization, Hami Nepal,
Hami
and,
Nepal.
they were the ones who sort of, set it up. But I don't know in terms of their grassroots outreach and, political interest and ambitions. What is it? Is it a social? Is it a civil sort of an organization? Is it political? So I think basically they will have to come together, because individuals might say that we want our rule, but basically it has to be a cohesive body that has to come to in position to be able to take charge, to be able to take control, and to be able to give that confidence. And maybe some of these opposition parties which have been sidelined completely, like the RSP, the gentleman was talking about, and whose and also there was whose leader was put behind bars. He got quite a good number of MPs, more than 20 in the last elections, and he was able to do quite creditably.
Okay.
But then he was on some charges or the other, he was put behind bars. He's been released from there. So I think some of those who have some
In fact, there's
grassroots.
breaking news that's coming in, Ambassador Sajanhar. There's been a breakout of jails, whether it's the Pokhara jail, at least 2 jails. There has been a breakout, and hundreds of prisoners, including political prisoners, have been able to come out. So amidst this chaos and protests across Nepal, there have been reports of jailbreak. It's a dangerous dimension to what's happening in Nepal. Jailbreak happening, Jal Narasimhan. The situation does look very alarming even as we speak. But, the fact that civilian leadership has been targeted, police have been targeted, even the judiciary or a section of judiciary hasn't been spared. But the army, well respected, can they restore order, or will they also be now treading on eggshells?
The jailbreak was to be expected. When such large protest takes place, this is one of the things that will generally take place, and it has happened. So that needs to be controlled. The thing is, the earlier the army comes onto the streets and then start handling the situation, the better it would be. I think that is the only organization left in Nepal now at this point in time to handle the situation, and they are well-respected professional army, as I mentioned to you earlier. And they have always been balanced in their approach, whichever governments came in power in Nepal, because you know that no prime minister in the last 14, 15 years have completed his term. They always kept shifting. So army has been very well balanced. I think it's a respected organization. The earlier they come on the streets, the better it is to restore normalcy. In the meanwhile, the political activity should carry on the way the MP mentioned. So I think that is the way to go. Army will definitely be able to control.
Okay, I want to bring in Mr. Abdul Khan, former minister in the Nepal government, once again into this conversation. So, Abdul Khan साहब, किस तरह से प्रजातंत्र की बहाली एक बार फिर हो सकती है कि जेन ज़ी को, युवाओं को शक्ति मिले, और इस समय जो बैठकें चल रही हैं जिसमें आपकी पार्टी भी शामिल है, तो क्या जो अंतरिम प्रधानमंत्री होंगे, इंटरिम प्राइम मिनिस्टर होंगे, वो बालन शाह ही होंगे? क्या यही सोच है?
देखिए, जो अभी युवा सबका जो भी आक्रोश था, ये कोई पार्टीगत या कोई नेतागत नहीं था। इसलिए कल के जो है प्रोटेस्ट में विशुद्ध रूप में युवा सबका उपस्थिति था। लेकिन आज का जो भी आंदोलन हुआ है, जो भी प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है, वो उसमें सभी दल, सभी पार्टी के लोग शामिल हुए। तो इससे यह साबित हो रहा है कि कुछ नेता सब, जो टॉप 15 या 20 लीडर जो थे यहाँ पे नेपाल के, उन्हीं लोग प्रति आक्रोश जो युवाओं का दिखा। अब युवाओं का मानना ये है कि कोई भी आए, कोई भी युवा बने, लेकिन वो युवा होना चाहिए और हमारे नेपाल के भविष्य को जो है बदलने वाला होना चाहिए। उसका विजन, उसका मिशन, सोच बेहतर होना चाहिए। तो खास करके अभी तक
हिल्स और प्लेन्स, पहाड़ों में और तराई में या मधेशियों के साथ जो अन्याय है, उस तरह की बात नहीं होगी नए संविधान में या नए प्रशासन में?
नहीं, अभी का ये जो भी प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है, इसमें विशुद्ध रूप में नेपाल के लिए हुआ है। ये कोई किसी भूभाग के लिए इसमें कोई भी बात नहीं आई है, कोई जात, धर्म, संप्रदाय की बात नहीं है। इसमें विशुद्ध रूप में नेपाल को कैसे समृद्ध बनाया जाए, नया नेपाल कैसे बनाया जाए, ताकि युवाओं को प्रतिनिधित्व हो, युवाओं को रोजगार मिले, उनकी रोजमर्रा की चीजें जो है यहाँ पे मिले और उनका जीवन बेहतर हो। इसलिए इसमें किसी जात, धर्म, संप्रदाय और भूगोल के आधार पे ये प्रोटेस्ट नहीं हुआ। इसलिए हम सब चाहते हैं कि ऐसा ना हो और नेपाल में जो है भौगोलिकता के हिसाब से, जाति, धर्म के हिसाब से सबको जो है सहभागिता मिले और उस तरीके का एक बेहतर नेपाल निर्माण हो, बेहतर नेपाल बने। उसी स्थिति में ये मुहिम चला, ये आंदोलन हुआ और अभी हो भी रहा है। इसको जो है आगे की ओर कैसे हम सब इसको जो है संयम बरताएं, इसको कैसे जो है एक निष्कर्ष पे पहुंचाए, उसके लिए हम सब लगे हुए हैं, काम कर रहे हैं। और इसमें किसी भी पार्टी का लोग था, वो भी आज बाकायदा रैली में निकला है, बाकायदा आंदोलन
और
में निकला
एक
है।
नेपाली के रूप में निकला है, नेपाल के नागरिक के रूप में निकला है। आप मेरे साथ जुड़े, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। टू ऑल माय गेस्ट, मेनी थैंक्स फॉर जॉइनिंग मी ऑन दिस पार्ट, एंड वी विल बी ट्रैकिंग डेवलपमेंट्स इन नेपाल very very closely. It's actually a revolution that started from the ground, but will it now have direction, or will it lead to more fires being lit up, is something that we'll be tracking closely. But I have breaking news coming in on the new Vice President of India. A big story coming in. I want to get you the latest of what's been happening in Parliament through the day today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated C.P. Radhakrishnan on being elected the new new Vice President of India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media platform X to say, and I quote, "Congratulations to Thiru C.P. Radhakrishnan ji on winning the 2025 Vice Presidential election. His life has always been devoted to serving society and empowering the poor and the marginalized. I'm confident he will be an outstanding Vice President who will strengthen our constitutional values and enhance the parliamentary discourse." That's what the Prime Minister has just responded. So we also have the numbers that have come in, and I want to get you those numbers. 767 votes that were cast, 98.2%. One ballot box, 6 p.m. counting ended and counting started. 767 votes polled, 752 were valid, 15 were invalid. And if you look at these numbers, and we're putting those numbers out for you, 377 was the majority mark. I want to quickly cut across and bring in India Today's Piyush Mishra and Aishwarya Paliwal, who join us on the show. Also joining me now is Mosmi Singh. Piyush, at 452 first preference votes, clear victory. There was never any doubt, Piyush.
Well, absolutely, there was never any doubt, Gaurav, that C.P. Radhakrishnan will have a say in these elections, because NDA itself had the majority mark in its hand. 427 was the NDA's kitty, but later on we also saw as to how it enjoyed the support of YSRCP, and BRS and BJD deciding to abstain also boosted the morale of NDA. Why? Because India lost important 11 in its kitty. So NDA was very much confident since the beginning, and this is what we are also seeing turning into results, where the C.P. Radhakrishnan candidate of NDA has got 452 in its kitty. 152 votes more than the India Alliance candidate B. Sudarshan Reddy. And after the announcement of C.P. Radhakrishnan as the Vice President-elect, we are also seeing the celebrations taking place outside the election office of C.P. Radhakrishnan. Let me try to show you the pictures also from right outside his office, which is also the residence of Prahlad Joshi. And here you can see as to how the entire area has been decked up using different kind of garland. Senior ministers in the government are seen arriving here. BJP's National President J.P. Nadda, along with JDU Working President Sanjay Jha and other leaders of NDA, they have already arrived. We are now seeing a few more leaders reaching here at the residence of Prahlad Joshi. Rekha Gupta, Chief Minister of Delhi, she has just...
Let me also bring in Mosmi Singh. Mosmi, the opposition, they knew they were fighting a losing battle, but this was an important battle, just to put numbers in place. So how is the opposition reacting? We saw something about moral victory being said, but what's the buzz in the opposition camp, Mosmi?
So, Gaurav, we need to understand that 452 votes is what the NDA scored. They were expecting, as Mr. Jaiswal told me, about 450 votes. That is 427 plus about 23 more votes is what they were expecting, but they got 452. And what's interesting is that, of these 23 votes that they got extra, 11 was YSRCP. So if you take that out, almost 14 more votes is what NDA got extra, apart from the YSRCP giving them support. On the other side, there were 15 votes that were invalid. Now we don't know which votes were invalid. And a very important point that the viewers need to understand, if these were NDA votes that went invalid, then the NDA figures could have gone even lower. So the probability of opposition votes being invalid is higher. And now from the opposition side, it's being said that we've got almost above 40% votes, which is way above the 26% votes that we got when Margaret Alva fought Mr. Dhankar. So it's a moral victory. So, you know, the claims and counterclaims will flow, but the top secret is, Gaurav, one would never know because there's no name written on the vote paper that which MP actually cast an invalid vote or which MP cross-voted. So that speculation, I think, would just continue.
In fact, there has been intense speculation in the past 45 minutes to an hour, Aishwarya, about cross-voting. And all the buzz, Aishwarya, was the BJP camp or the NDA camp was very excited that there's cross-voting happening from the other side. On what basis were they saying this or attributing this to? Point one. And point two, going into Bihar elections, is this something that they will tom-tom?
Definitely, you know, is this vote chori? This is what the BJP at the moment is pointing fingers and saying that you have been saying that there is vote chori which has happened over the past many elections, especially in the Lok Sabha elections. But what happened within your own camp? So these are the questions that BJP at the moment is asking, and rightly so. Let's just take a look at the numbers. You know, we did see how the Congress, in fact, Jairam Ramesh tweeted out and said that 315 is what they were looking at. They are 15 minus. So we will now have to wait and watch whether the cross-voting, that is exactly what a lot of people at the moment are pointing fingers at. Is it true? Has someone, either from the Congress or some of the Congress allies, have they actually voted in favor of the NDA? Because they were looking at close to 427. They have got 452. So their margin has increased. The invalid votes also at the moment, let me speak about it. There are close to 15 invalid votes. Have all the people, from the opposition, are they the ones which made sure that there was some kind of invalid voting which happened, because that actually has helped the NDA? So all these permutation combinations, Gaurav, in play. Vote chori is something which the BJP now turning the tables and asking, has there some kind of vote chori which has happened in the opposition camp? The NDA, very, very happy. We will see a spillover taking place in Bihar. You know, Gaurav, in just the next couple of weeks, we will see how the top guns of the BJP, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, they will be doing rallies, and this is something that they will definitely be speaking about.
In fact, on the inside story, so when Mosmi, Aishwarya, Piyush, when they all sit together on their podcast, they'll give you lots of inside stuff of what's been happening. Of course, I'll get some of it on India First right now, but I first want to quickly bring in Akshita Nand Gopal, who joins us from Coimbatore. And Coimbatore has another reason to celebrate. Their son of the soil, representative, former MP, is now making it as Vice President of India. You were speaking to Annamalai. He was very excited about this. But tell me about the celebrations on ground in Coimbatore.
Vanakkam, Gaurav. Yes, there's a lot of excitement in Coimbatore. We've had a very successful India Today conclave south, and I think every Coimbatorian who I've spoken to has been very excited, whether on stage or off, about the fact that we have someone who's a representative of the soil of Coimbatore now as a vice president of the country. It's a big deal because CPR is someone who's referred to very often, Gaurav, as the Vajpayee of the South, as the Vajpayee of Tamil Nadu. And that's because of how several political parties always have embraced him. He's always been staunch BJP man. He's won from the Coimbatore Lok Sabha seat twice. He's been party president for the Bharatiya Janata Party here in Tamil Nadu. So he's got, of course, a long legacy as far as the BJP is concerned in Tamil Nadu. He's tasted success in a state where the BJP struggled to previously. And also important, there's so much messaging involved, so many layers here. One is, of course, that you have elections coming up in the state of Tamil Nadu. Coimbatore, the Kongu belt, which is in the western part of Tamil Nadu, is considered to be a crucial support base for the NDA, for the BJP, as well as for the AIADMK. And then CPR comes from the Gaundar community, which is part of the OBC group. Again, very dominant in the western part of Tamil Nadu. So this is an outreach on so many layers. It's to the people of Coimbatore, to the Kovai belt, the Kongu region, because of the caste factor that I spoke of, and because CPR is someone who's greatly loved by the people of Tamil Nadu. He is, a son of the soil. And that's the sense indeed. That you see here, a sense of great pride that someone who represents Coimbatore is now in Delhi.
Mosmi, when we talk about the opposition bloc or the India bloc, Jairam Ramesh said, 100%, everyone came, everyone voted. But is there disappointment that, one, they knew they would never have the numbers, but with these invalid votes and with this talk of cross-voting, will there be, some way that they'll get to know the truth? Were there any anxious moments, or this was well known? Because mostly the fact really is YSRCP said NDA or the BJP had its act in place. They approached them first, and YSRCP said we wanted a decision by unanimity, and that's why we said yes to CP Radhakrishnan.
Clearly, Gaurav, there are three takeaways. One is that the BJD and the BRS abstain. Now, that's the first, because we've often seen the BJD call out the inner voice, leave it to the inner voice and conscience of the MPs in the most pertinent Waqf bill as well. So that's a departure from the past. You've chosen to be a fence-sitter. Then again, you get the numbers down. When 7 plus 4 MPs don't add up, the total numbers come down. That could also be helpful for the NDA. And secondly, the other thing is that YSRCP joining the bandwagon in terms of, perhaps giving in a word, that's a big boost for the NDA, because, your ally is an arch rival of the YSRCP, the TDP. So both voting on the same side is also an achievement. But on the other side, you see that this is one issue after the SIR issue and the Waqf bill. We've seen a more consolidated fight by the opposition. India Bloc plus opposition parties 1.1, 2, 3 have added up. That is a big unifying ground. Getting 300 votes, the opposition can pat its back as far as, getting the Aam Aadmi Party, Owaisi, Mr. Azad, all of them to rally, and also the TMC without any objections and asking for more room to maneuver over the choice of candidate. Coming to the Congress's side, the India Bloc side is a departure. So it's I can say one thing, Gaurav, that this has set new political permutations and combinations for both sides, as far as the power play is concerned.
Okay, so victory for CP Radhakrishnan and moral victory for Sudarshan Reddy, and we'll be tracking that story closely. Many thanks, Mosmi, Aishwarya, Akshita, and Piyush for joining me on this. We're getting the first reaction from the Vice President CP Radhakrishnan after winning the Vice Presidential elections. Okay, that's reaction number one. He's said he's thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He's thanked President Draupadi Murmu for extending wishes to him for his victory. CP Radhakrishnan has said heartfelt thanks to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also to President Draupadi Murmu. I'll get you more on that story when more reactions come in. But there's a big story that's coming in from West Asia. Israel has targeted Hamas, but not in Gaza. This time, Hamas has been targeted in Doha, in the capital of Qatar. And there are reports that say that senior leaders of the Hamas were targeted in Doha, Qatar. Those are visuals that are coming in. Details coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Big story coming in. Israel has targeted the headquarters of the negotiating delegation of the ceasefire in Qatar, in Doha. And it is believed as of now that the Hamas ceasefire negotiators have been targeted. The Israeli Defense Forces have said that they conducted a precision strike targeting senior leadership of Hamas. And they've called it senior leadership of the terrorist organization Hamas. Qatar has condemned what is described as the cowardly attack by Israel on Hamas headquarters in Doha, calling it a violation of all international laws. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also condemned Israel's strikes on Qatar, on Doha. But Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that action against top terrorist chieftains of Hamas was an independent Israeli operation. Israel initiated it, conducted it, and Israel takes full responsibility for this attack. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's foreign affairs editor Geeta Mohan for the latest on this big story. Geeta, targeting Qatar, targeting Doha sounds really improbable, and that too not through a clandestine Mossad operation by the Israeli Defense Forces doing it. What more can you tell us?
Well, this is certainly one of the statements that Prime Minister Netanyahu made, and now he's walking the talk in saying that he's going to eliminate all senior leadership of the Hamas. But this is a serious breach of Qatari territory. Qatar's foreign ministry has come out and put out a statement on how the country not just condemns the attack, but this is an act of real violation when it comes to international laws. Having said that, what Qatar's response is going to be is something we'll have to wait and see. Gaurav, the fact that Netanyahu comes out and in a statement very clearly says this was wholly an Israeli operation means that they want to give a clean sheet to the United States of America because it holds an air base in Qatar. And last time around, when there was an attack on Iran, we saw the response when it came to how the base in Qatar was attacked. So giving America a clean sheet, but this does not end. This is certainly escalation.